Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. Growing up, I always knew my mother favored my older sister, Emily, over me. It wasn't a secret. At first, I didn't have the words to describe it. As a child, you don't realize favoritism is at play. You just notice how your sister always seems to get more. How her tears bring comfort while yours bring a sigh. It's something you quietly internalize, until one day, it's impossible to ignore. My mother has always doted on Emily, excused her behavior no matter how outrageous, and bent over backward to shield her from consequences. For years, I tried to overlook it. I told myself I was being overly sensitive or reading too much into things. But as I've gotten older, it's become harder to ignore the ways my mother's favoritism has shaped my life, and especially the way it's rearing its head now as I prepare for my wedding. One moment stands out above all others, a memory that still makes my chest tighten when I think about it. I was 10 and Emily was 12. I had spent weeks saving up my allowance to buy this beautiful glittery journal I'd seen at a shop near our house. I love to write, and the journal felt like it was meant for me, something special that I'd earned. When I finally bought it, I was so proud. I brought it home, showed it to my mom, and carefully placed it on my desk. That night, Emily came into my room and saw the journal. She immediately wanted it. "Why do you get the nice one?" she said, pouting. "You don't even write that much." I stood my ground. "It's mine," I said firmly. "I bought it with my own money." Emily didn't argue. Instead, she stormed off and went straight to my mom. Minutes later, my mom came into my room, holding the journal. "Emily really likes this," she said, her tone gentle but firm. "Why don't you let her have it?" "But it's mine," I said, my voice trembling. "I saved up for it." My mother sighed, as if I was being unreasonable. "You're younger. You don't understand how hard things are for Emily. Just let her have it. It's not a big deal." And just like that, the journal was gone. Emily took it, scribbled in it for a few days, and then abandoned it. I eventually found it under her bed, covered in doodles and crumpled pages. I never said anything, but that moment stuck with me. It wasn't just about the journal. It was about how easily my feelings were dismissed in favor of Emily's. That pattern repeated itself throughout our lives. Emily's needs were always bigger, more important, while mine were brushed aside as insignificant. As we grew older, Emily's entitlement and jealousy only deepened. When I started dating my fiancé, Liam, 5 years ago, Emily's resentment became more obvious. She hated that I was in a happy, stable relationship, while she struggled to maintain even casual flings. She would make little digs like, "Must be nice to find someone who puts up with you." When Liam started coming to family gatherings, Emily's behavior crossed into outright disrespect. She'd flirt with him, touching his arms, laughing at every little joke he made, and then act offended when he didn't reciprocate. Liam, to his credit, always handled it well. He'd subtly pull away or redirect the conversation, but I could see how uncomfortable it made him. One day, Emily confronted me outright. "Don't you think it's unfair that you get to be in a serious relationship when I'm older than you? I should be the one getting married first." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Emily, my relationship isn't about you," I said. "You'll find someone when the time is right." She rolled her eyes and muttered something about how everything always worked out for me while she got stuck with nothing. When Liam proposed to me last year, it was one of the happiest moments of my life. He planned a beautiful evening, complete with candles, flowers, and a heartfelt speech. I said yes without hesitation, and we celebrated the start of a new chapter together. Telling my family should have been a joyful moment, but it quickly turned sour. When I shared the news, my mom gave me a half-hearted smile and said, "That's wonderful, dear," while Emily sat there silently, her expression cold. After a few moments, she stood up and left the room without saying a word. My mom followed her, leaving me and Liam sitting there, confused and hurt. Later, my mom called me to explain that Emily was having a hard time and that I needed to be more understanding. "She's struggling with being single," my mom said. "Seeing you get engaged was hard for her." I wanted to scream. This was supposed to be my moment, but once again, it was all about Emily. While I was trying to celebrate my engagement, my mother's response was to focus all her energy on Emily. Instead of congratulating me or showing excitement about the wedding, my mother decided that Emily needed to be cheered up. She took Emily on a lavish trip to the Maldives, complete with spa treatments, excursions, and first-class flights. When they came back, she went on a shopping spree with Emily, buying her designer clothes and expensive jewelry to boost her confidence. My mom justified it again by saying, "Emily's going through a tough time seeing her younger sister get engaged before her. She needs this support." It felt like a slap in the face. I was the one who had just gotten engaged, but instead of celebrating with me, my mother was spoiling Emily to make her feel better about her jealousy. Planning the wedding brought even more tension. Every time I talked about the details, picking a venue, choosing a dress, my mom would change the subject or make comments about how hard this must be for Emily. When I asked Emily to be a bridesmaid, hoping to include her, she shrugged and said, "I guess, but don't expect me to be happy about it." At one point, Emily suggested I tone down the wedding entirely. "Do you really need a big wedding?" she asked. "It's just going to make me feel worse." I couldn't believe her audacity. "Emily, this is my wedding," I said. "It's not about you." She stormed off, and my mom called me later to chastise me. "You know how sensitive Emily is," she said. "You need to be more patient and understanding with her." A few weeks ago, my mom dropped a bombshell. She called me and said, "I think it might be best if Emily and I don't come to the wedding." I was stunned. "What are you talking about?" I asked. "Emily's mental health is really fragile right now," my mom explained. "She's struggling with the idea of you getting married before her. She doesn't even have a boyfriend, and it's just too hard for her to watch. I need to stay with her and support her through this." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "So you're skipping my wedding because Emily can't handle it?" I asked, my voice shaking. "I'm not choosing sides," my mom said defensively, "but Emily needs me more right now." That was it. That was the moment I realized I'd had enough. "If you're not coming to my wedding, then I don't want to see either of you ever again," I said before hanging up. My mom called me the next day, leaving a voicemail about how I'm being unreasonable, selfish, and lacking empathy. Emily has taken to social media, posting passive-aggressive comments about selfish people who can't understand mental health. Some extended family members have even reached out, saying I should be the bigger person and try to mend things. But I'm done. I spent my entire life being pushed aside for Emily, sacrificing my happiness to keep the peace, and watching my mom enable her bad behavior. This was supposed to be my time, a moment to celebrate my love and my future with Liam. Instead, it's been overshadowed by Emily's jealousy and my mom's refusal to hold her accountable. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole for cutting off my mother and sister after they refused to attend my wedding? OP's mother and sister have been toxic for years, and it sounds like this wedding was the breaking point. Emily has spent her entire life making everything about her, and OP's mom has enabled her behavior at every turn. The fact that OP's mother is skipping OP's wedding to coddle Emily's jealousy is downright cruel. Weddings are supposed to be a celebration of love and family, and they're making it all about Emily's feelings, again. OP is absolutely right to set boundaries and stand her ground. She deserves to have a happy wedding day surrounded by people who actually support her, not people who make everything about themselves and can't be happy for OP. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Wow, I can't even imagine how hurtful this must be. Emily and your mom clearly have a toxic dynamic, and it's been at your expense for years. It's infuriating that your mom is framing this as a mental health issue for Emily, when it's really just jealousy and entitlement. You've been patient for long enough. It's time to prioritize yourself and your future. Liam sounds like a wonderful partner, and you deserve to celebrate your wedding without their drama hanging over your head. You've done nothing wrong here. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. It's clear this isn't about the wedding. It's about years of being sidelined in favor of Emily. Your mom has shown time and time again that she values Emily's feelings over yours, and now she's taken it to the extreme by refusing to attend your wedding. That's not love. That's enabling. Good for you for finally standing up for yourself. You're starting a new chapter with Liam, and it's okay to leave behind people who don't support your happiness. Let them stew in their own drama while you move forward. This is heartbreaking, but honestly, it sounds like cutting ties might be the healthiest thing you can do. Your mom and Emily have been manipulating you for years, and this wedding fiasco is just the latest example. The fact that your mom is skipping your wedding to cater to Emily's jealousy is mind-blowing. You deserve to be celebrated, not dragged into their dysfunction. Focus on your future with Liam and let them deal with the consequences of their actions, not the a-hole. Update. So, as expected, my mom and Emily didn't attend my wedding. The day came and went without a single text, call, or message from either of them. It was hurtful, but honestly, I was prepared for it. Liam and I had a beautiful ceremony surrounded by friends and family who genuinely love and support us. There was so much joy and love in the air. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the weight of their absence. After the wedding, I received a passive-aggressive message from my mom saying she hoped the day went well and that she did what she needed to do for Emily's well-being. Emily hasn't reached out at all, but she's been posting cryptic quotes on social media about fake people and unsupportive families. At this point, I've decided I'm done chasing after relationships that only bring pain and drama. I'm focusing on building a future with Liam and surrounding myself with people who truly care about me. Cutting them off wasn't easy, but it's becoming clearer every day that it was the right choice. Thank you, Reddit, for giving me the perspective and strength to prioritize my happiness. I don't regret my decision for a second. I, 20, female, was adopted when I was 16 by my half-brother and his wife, who were in their late 30s at the time. They already had 6 children when they adopted me, but it was never an issue. They have treated me like their own kid since they met me and adopted me. So did all their other kids. Except for one, their golden child, who is only 4 months older than me. We will call him Chad. Chad has always been an insensitive a-hole to literally everyone, including our other siblings. He would literally fistfight our older sister, say horrible and mean things to everyone, and get away with it. He also had extreme anger issues that would cause broken doors, holes in walls, etc. He also got to do everything me and my sister were never able to do. Got a free car, go out at night, etc. When we were still in school together during high school, he got up in front of our whole class year and told everyone I wasn't his sister and never would be. He then told me in front of his friends that I would never be a part of his family and I should just get over it and walked off. This was not a one-and-done thing. He would keep doing this up until he moved out and I stopped talking to him. Golden Boy once again got the limelight of the family after he got married right after high school, moved out to his wife's family's house, and then had a baby, the first grandbaby. Since this has happened, I've stayed as far away from him as possible, only seeing him for family pictures every year because our mother asks. Recently, I decided to come forward to our mom about what he said and did, because she was upset about how I was distancing myself from him. She basically pulled the "that's still my kid and it's my first grandbaby" card as the reason she wasn't going to be upset over it. I didn't really care, to be honest. I knew it wasn't going to change her mind on her kid anyway. Out of nowhere, I got a message begging me to come to babysit for them because you're the only one who can deal with these kinds of babies because no one will help. Apparently, they are weaning their kid off of breastfeeding, and the baby is extremely clingy because of that. And the fact that the mom is a germaphobe who has basically isolated this kid since birth. It literally has only been held by like 6 people since it's been born. They know I don't sleep for the most part because I'm an insomniac with ADHD, and I'm also not bothered by crying. For some reason, I can sit for hours with the baby crying and it doesn't bother me. Can't tell if that's a blessing or a curse at this point. My sister is mad at me because apparently they haven't asked anyone else in the family for help but me, and everyone wants to go see this baby. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to be around or take care of the baby because its father said that I'm not a part of his family? Not the a-hole. I would send them your hourly rates you will charge for the work. When Chad tries to pull the family card, say clearly that he has always publicly announced that you are not his sister and never will be, so you are only keeping Chad's word. Not the a-hole at all. Stand your ground. You do not owe Chad anything. He took action. Now he has to face the consequences. Just keep repeating, he said that I was not a part of the family and never would be. Therefore, I owe him nothing. This is not open for discussion. My decision is final. I say this gently, but your adopted parents aren't as great as you think they are. Treating your children differently, showering gifts and praise on 1 out of 7 kids, and allowing one to be an a-hole to the rest is horrible. And I'm sorry, they knew way before you sat your mom down and told her. She has always known and looked the other way. Update. After I posted, I ended up talking to 2 of my friends from high school. They were actually there during multiple occasions when Chad publicly said all that stuff. I talked with them for a little while. One of these friends actually came over almost weekly when I was still living at my parents' home, So she firsthand understands my family. We talked and we all mutually agreed, I go this once, see if we can't mend things. If not, I can tell my mom and sister I tried and we are done with the whole thing. And if the whole negative thing with my family keeps up, I will cut them off for good. So I accepted to go babysit. I went over to Chad's house around 8 p.m. As soon as I showed up, I was greeted by Chad's wife, who was extremely happy to see me. She was tired. You could just tell she had the I have a one-year-old face going on. She talked to me for a few minutes about how happy she was I came over and how she was glad to be going out with Chad. I kinda just listened to her go on and on before she finally got to the baby. Let's call him Seth. She explained to me his night routine, feedings, etc. Nothing too big. Then she got to the end where she started going on about how he was having crying fits at night and how he wouldn't get to sleep until mid-morning. I was a little on that, but all babies have different routines, I guess. She then said they would only be gone about 4 hours and that they would be home around like 12:30, 1 at most. After this, Chad shows up from their room, literally starts talking to his wife, looks at me, and then just kind of looks me over for a minute and gives me a small wave and nod before heading out of the house. His wife follows and simply tells me to call or text if I need anything. For a minute, I was just stunned, but went to work to see Seth, which was odd because it was my first time seeing him in person and not in the photos that are hung around our parents' house. In person, he is the cutest little baby ever. He was fine the whole time, and he only cried because there was no one in the room, not because of the weaning. By this time, it was around 11:30, almost 12. I would check the clock every few minutes just to see what time it was. 12:30 rolled around, and I'm like, should I text them? And I'm like, no, let me give them another few minutes until I need to text them. I ended up texting both of them at 1 asking where they were because they did say they would be home by now. I got no reply from either of them. They finally showed up at 3 in the morning. I'm livid at this point, not even over having to take care of Seth for a longer period of time, but just because they never texted me back. Like, what if there was an emergency or something? They walk into the living room and I'm just like, I texted asking where y'all were and no one answered. And Chad's wife starts saying that, oh, Chad said it was fine and that it would only be an hour more. And I was just like, you know what? It's fine. Whatever. Seth is sleeping. She looks at me all weird and I roll my eyes and say, it's not the weaning that's making him cry at night. He gets lonely. He's clingy. Just let him know you are in the room when he starts crying and he will go right back to sleep. I started to walk out with my stuff, as I was right about to walk completely past Chad, when I turned around and was like, so you aren't going to say anything to me? After I looked after your kid for like 7 hours now? He snorted at me and was like, no. My wife is the one who talked me into this anyway. Pissed off at this point, I said, so this wasn't, I don't know, possibly a way to be able to apologize for high school? Or maybe all those other times you decided to outcast me from the family? Because I was under the impression that maybe you want to patch things up because of you asking me of all people to watch your kid. He sat there for a minute and just said, why should I apologize? Because literally nothing from high school has changed. Man, you really need to just grow up and understand that me and my wife aren't going to cater to you like mom and dad did because you're adopted. You ain't our family, and you won't ever be. At this point, I just got in my car and left. I ended up texting my mom about all of it, thinking she would get it in the morning when she woke up. No, of course she had to be awake. She apparently told Chad's wife about the conversation we had had about all the stuff Chad had said and done to me in school. Apparently his wife felt bad because she had an adopted sister too, and felt horrible that Chad had done and said all those things. Apparently, mom didn't know about Chad asking about the babysitting thing until now, and she started talking to the wife who was now upset. Apparently, she thought Chad would have changed since then and didn't think he would act the way he did when I left. I told my mom that I'm done with him, and that if something ever happened to Seth, then I would be there, but I was done with him until that happens. Way things are going, I will most likely be cutting my whole family off, because this isn't worth the stress anymore. Update 2. So it has been a hot minute since I last updated on the whole Chad situation. It's mainly due to the surprising fact that my family, my mother and sister, not bugging me as much lately. The first day or two after the interaction with Chad was a bit hectic. Both of them were blowing up my phone, trying to get me to talk to them. Mostly my mom just trying to make excuses for Chad, and my sister trying to basically tell me just to get over it. I ended up telling the both of them in text and over the phone that I was over it, and I would be cutting myself off completely from Chad and his little family. This sparked some anger, but my mother soon went quiet, and later my sister. Everything seemed to be going pretty good after that for a while. That was until a week later when my sister showed up unannounced at my apartment, demanding that I take the blessing of getting to be around Chad's sheltered child when no one else seemed to be able to, basically acting like it was some huge honor that I was asked to babysit. I almost snapped. I wanted to call her a bee and to get off my property and not come back because I was just so sick of it. But I didn't. From my doorstep, I told her that if she wanted to see the baby so bad, just go over and see it. It wasn't my issue to deal with, and I slammed the door in her face and watched her leave. It's been radio silent for a while now, until earlier this week. I was scrolling on Instagram when I noticed that my oldest brother, the one I get along with super well and supported me about cutting Chad off, his girlfriend of a year and the same age as me, are now engaged and posted pictures of the proposal. I noticed the post had been made last week, but no one told me, not even my mother. I texted my brother's girlfriend asking her about literally everything that was happening. She was surprised because my mother had said she had told everyone in the family about the wedding. She then told me that they would be holding a family meeting at my parents' house to talk about the wedding plans. I said okay. The meeting was for today around dinner time. I showed up and walked into the house and noticed that a lot of stuff was different decoration-wise. My parents had our family photos all arranged around the living room and a few random frames with multiple small photos in them as well. I noticed that they had replaced multiple small photos of specifically me from the frames and replaced them with now pictures of Chad and his wife and my older brother and his girlfriend. What were maybe 6 pictures of me on any of the walls, there were now 2. A baby picture of me and my senior high school photo that are now in the hallway, not even the living room. I ignored it and didn't say anything. After a while, everyone showed up, except for, of course, Chad, who my mom pulled the he wanted to spend time with his baby BS. They started talking about all the people plans of the part, aka people who were going to be key parts of the wedding cast. I tried my best to listen and take in all of what my brother's girlfriend was saying. I noticed by the end of it all, my name was literally never added into any of the main plans. I wasn't mentioned at all for another of the plans. I started to question why I was there if I wasn't going to be in the main plans of the wedding. I was kinda like, why not just send me an invitation then? I went home and texted his girlfriend asking about what had happened at the little meeting. Apparently, my mother had told her that I wouldn't want to be involved in any of the wedding stuff and that it wasn't my thing. She called me unfeminine and that I wouldn't like doing any kind of bridal stuff because I'm not girly. She then said everything was set in stone now. My older sister is going to be a bridesmaid, and my little sister is to be a flower girl. My little brother will be the ring holder, and my other little brother and Chad will be the groomsmen. And apparently, my mother also told her that because of what happened with Chad, that I shouldn't be sat at the family table, but at a guest table. I will just be another guest at the wedding. I didn't really say anything back because it hurt. It hurt that my mother would say that about me, that I was unfeminine, and that just because I myself didn't do a lot of girly things in my spare time, I wasn't going to be able to enjoy doing something like a wedding or be a bridesmaid. I can't believe she would say that about me. To be honest, I don't know if I'm even going to go. The wedding is scheduled for the end of the year. It sounds stupid and petty, but this hurt me. It hurt that I'm being outcasted, most likely due to Chad once again. And as I'm typing this, my sister is texting me about how she is helping plan all the bride stuff. Honestly, I'm going to leave it off at this for right now, because I don't know how to even feel if you know what I mean right now. Update 3. Chad's wife is pregnant again. I've moved even further away from my parents since the last few updates, in part to hopefully try and start a process of trying to cut them off from my life. This has worked a bit, but not enough to actually make me feel any better. They, mostly my mother, have still decided to take time to bother me and showing up at my new place and only given me a second of a heads up. There is no update concerning the wedding. I've only gotten an invitation through the mail. I'm not going to try and press it anymore. I'm going to go, but I will most likely leave after the ceremony and not stay to hang out with anyone. Chad's situation has grown only by the fact that over a group chat, they decided not to have any kind of gender reveal or even a baby shower. They just announced that they are now having a girl. Don't want to be a jerk, but Chad's wife stretched the fact that Chad randomly made her get up and go get an ultrasound to find out the gender. She acted like she really didn't want to do it. Apparently, they went to one of those fancy ultrasound places where you get fancy models of the fetus and high-tech ultrasound pics. Chad also announced that he is going to college now and asked for a $1,000 loan, which they gave him. They have always stressed that they will never loan money to any of their kids. My stomach turned when they happily gave him the money, but they wouldn't lend me $20 for school books when I went to college. They refused to help me get into college. I muted that group. I also found out that my sister has possibly outed me to mom. I came out when I was in high school as being bi. This didn't go well, to be quite honest, as my mom pulled, "I have a lesbian cousin who is married to a woman," followed up by a story about how her friend traumatized her in college by taking her to a gay bar, and she got hit on by another female. Not great. My brother fully believes that my love for women is trauma-based because of the aggression I faced from our bio father. My heart was broken when all of this came to the surface, knowing they both truly wouldn't support me. They would only lie to my face about being uncomfortable by my life. I basically promised myself that I would never tell them if I got a female partner, in hopes of saving not only my feelings, but my partner's feelings in the long run. It makes me extremely uncomfortable to think about them looking me in the eyes and believing everything that they told me concerning their feelings about my lifestyle. I fear my sister has told my mom about me dating a female now that I have moved further away from them, something that I never did while in the house living with them. I noticed on my girlfriend's Instagram, my sister had liked one of the pictures of me and my girlfriend. My girlfriend, after hearing all of this, supports me about not posting pictures of us, seeing as she knows that my family follows me on Instagram. My girlfriend has not tagged me in any pictures on Instagram, so my sister had been looking through my friend on Instagram. Not even a week after the photo was liked, I had to see my sister in person for something. She started to make awkward comments about my dating life and if I was seeing anyone, which I only said maybe and left it at that. 2 days later, my mom is showing up at my front door with some store-bought cookies, asking me if there's anything I want to tell her. I brushed her off and didn't say anything. She then left and hasn't said anything else to me. A few hours later, my little brother texts me asking if I had told mom about me dating, because she is apparently going crazy, and about how his dad is just telling her that it's just a trauma response. I haven't told anyone about me dating, so clearly someone told her about me dating, especially the fact that they are bringing up that I'm dating a female. I honestly don't know what I'm supposed to do at this point, as I am trying my best to cut them off. My girlfriend is telling me not to think about it too much, and that we can get through it together. I honestly don't know where I would be at this point without her, because she is the only one keeping me sane throughout this entire transition. I wish I could fully say that my life is getting better, but it's really only getting better at a snail's pace.